This is The Shift, Stories of Resistance and Resilience, a multi-platform conversation series produced and hosted by Mark Travis Rivera, the professional storyteller. I believe that we must embrace the power of stories to create a more inclusive world. So this series aims to share perspectives, insights, and stories from professionals around the world about the role that resistance and resilience plays in our personal and professional lives. So, tune in, listen up, take notes, and recognize our shared humanity. This is The Shift.
And I think it's not until you read stories like yours that you realize there's actually more strength in stories where someone keeps getting back up than someone who's super privileged, has no concept of what it means to be resilient and have to get back up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't build character. Those are not the folks who actually should be believing that they're, superior at anything because
Right.
they haven't been through anything. It's
Listen.
to keep falling and climbing and, pulling themselves out of the mud over and over again.
And then have the audacity to become a choreographer and a dancer, right?
Exactly.
And have the guspa or the whatever that word is to like have we say cojones in Spanish, like have the cojones to pursue this, right? And here's the thing about me. They often say, and this also ties into my concept around resilience. They often say that premature babies are among some of the most resilient people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because from the moment we took our first breath, we had to fight. I actually want to read a draft of a poem I shared recently. That's okay. I have not shared this publicly, but I feel the spirit is moving me to share this, and I want to share it with you and our podcast audience. This one I did share, actually. I'm referring to the one I wrote with my ex-boyfriend, which I'm not going to share right now. Okay. So I'll read the one I wrote about this topic.
Okay.
From the moment I entered the world, I was anxiously trying to stay. 1 pound, early 90s, I became my mother's rainbow baby in more ways than one. Chest slowly rising, tubes kept me breathing, small hands gripping on for dear life. 190 pounds, 2025, and I'm still anxiously trying to make sense of it all. And I just told you how much I weigh, but it's okay. I didn't realize that I revealed that information in that draft, but well, okay, anywho. And yeah, and it's like, I have anxious attachment style because of my
What an origin story, though.
Huh?
What an origin story.
Oh, thanks. It doesn't always feel like... It's not the origin story I would have picked, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly. If you had your way.
If I had my own way. If I had my own way, I would have grown up in a 2-parent household with at least middle class or upper middle class standing, access to education, access to good healthcare, access to healthy environments. All these things I would have chosen, right?
Right.
And not because life would not have its difficulties or its moments, right? Those people also go through things. But the struggle wasn't about basic survival and basic needs.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you something. It's easier to overcome a challenge when your basic needs are always met.
Absolutely. It's also easier to get dignity when you don't have to ask people for your basic needs.
Right.
A lot of middle-class people and people who've grown up middle class, right. The experience of feeling, undignified is not common. But it is when your survival depends on asking for resources to sort of offset poverty.
Yeah. And we don't have to be that way. We don't have to have people living in this country poor as fuck. If we have the funding to give people a signing bonus if they join ICE and pay off $60,000 their student loan debt, that they have that. If we have enough money for that crap, then we have enough money to house the homeless.
I think I read one time that resolving homelessness would, I think, cost maybe around $20 billion. And it's just that's a lot of money.
How much do they profit off homelessness?
Exactly. But that sounds like a lot of money. That's a big number, granted, but
not for our country, not for a nation of our size, right?
if you consider the scale of like the budget for everything else, that's
Yeah,
actually like a drop in the bucket.
a drop.
And so the fact that we
The
choose,
funding for USAA,
yeah. So
also a
I
drop.
mean, there are like elite boarding schools that have, you know, endowments close to $1 billion. So like
Yes.
$20 billion is not that much at all to sort of like have a safety net.
Yeah.
That's nothing. But
To quote my colleague and friend Andre Henry, who wrote the author of To All the White Friends I Couldn't Keep, um, it doesn't have to be this way.
it doesn't have to be. There are alternatives. There are alternatives.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this way. So yeah, that's how I kind of explain
Yeah.
the resistance and the resilience piece.
And I like that your work is independent. Like that book is sort of like something that you sort of charted on your own. And so I
Mhm.
want to ask you, like, do you have any encouraging words for younger freelancers or young writers, independent journalists who may feel underappreciated because maybe they're not employed for like a mainstream or legacy media outlet? They're doing it on their own.
Yeah, or
What
maybe
would you
not
say
they.
to them?
Maybe their sole survivalhood is not simply supported by their writing.
Right. Yeah. They
This
have,
is
part-time
yeah.
jobs,
Uh-huh.
gigs.
Uh-huh. And this is true of all artists, so not just writers. In this case, we're talking about writers, but this also can apply to any art group.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I got paid professionally
Mm-hmm.
for my dance company to perform. It was like at my
Mm-hmm.
sister's job, and she used to work at a adult daycare for elderly people, and they paid us $50.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling the dancers and my dancer's mom at the time, and one of my best friends at the time, I'm treating us all to Wendy's, and we're all gonna get Frosties because $50, right? I was 17 years old when I started my dance company, becoming the youngest person in the U.S., probably even the world, to create an integrated dance company, and one
Wow.
of the few artistic directors of color, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, what would happen is a lot of my white disabled colleagues would downplay what I was saying or not pay attention to what I was saying because I was young, because I was brown, right? And then a lot of the educators around me at the time thought I was stupid for trying to pursue dance given my disability. You can't do this, you're disabled,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all those people in their own way, in their own time have apologized. And I don't have a chip on my shoulder about that. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
But here's what God told me at 17 years old when I started my dance company. He told me, make a promise to yourself that you would never work another job again. Does not correlate to your purpose in some way.
Mm.
And knock on wood, oh, this ain't real wood. Knock on something. Shit. I have been able to keep that promise to myself.
Oh, wow. What a
And I
blessing.
know how rare, and trust me, it hasn't always been easy. There's been times when the bank accounts were overdrafted, and I had to have faith because baby, I had no way, honey. I had to have the faith of a mustard seed, but my faith was low.
Yeah.
And even up to earlier this year, right? It was Q1, it was droplets, and I was like, all right, God, I know I'm honoring the calling of my life, and so there's going to be a way for us to get through this season. And it has just been an abundance of overflow.
Mm. I'm so glad to hear that.
Because faith, right? Faith met with steady preparation
Mm-hmm.
made me ready.
Mm-hmm.
So when the floodgates opened, even though I felt like I was drowning at first, I realized there was an ark beneath my feet,
Mm. Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Ooh. Wow. Chills. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, but yes, the church boy in me, the church boy in me came out just now.
But it's true. I think there's this quote that I love that consistency feels like nothing until everything changes.
Yeah,
And so that's why it's so important to have faith and to continue to just like trudge on and to like you said earlier, it's not just about talent. It's
yeah,
also about discipline. So
yes,
marrying those
ah,
two things, faith and discipline,
yes.
until something changes. And I
Because
think the
faith
other
without works is dead.
that part.
And so my advice to the artists who aspire, right? Because there's a difference between being a famous artist, right, and being a working artist. And I
Yeah,
don't aspire to be a famous artist or a famous writer,
for that one.
right? I aspire to be a working artist and make an honest living to the day I die doing what I love, what I was called to do.
And to have artistic integrity. And so
Yes.
a lot of people, they aspire for the fame, but they don't realize that
Really.
the fame and the commercialization and the
Of your
commodification
art.
of your art
It comes at a
waters
cost.
down, it strips the art of a certain integrity, and then the
Yes.
audience changes. So,
Yes.
a lot of times people get into art hoping to reach everyone, but it's like you might just reach only your audience in your community, and let that be enough.
And let that be enough. As long as you can make an honest living, as long as you can feed yourself,
Hmm.
right? And you know what? Let's be honest. Not everyone's meant to be a full-time creative. There are
Yeah,
people who are
that's
meant to be a hybrid. They're supposed to work a 9 to 5 and have their art
absolutely.
on the side. There are people who are meant to work part-time jobs while they do their art. And that doesn't make you any less of an artist or any less of a writer,
Hmm.
right? If Toni Morrison can wake up super early to get her writing done,
Oh
to have to
yeah.
wake up her kids, to then go to work at the publishing company and edit for other writers, if she can do it and she did it, right? And to
Hmm.
quote Beverly Smith, it gets greater later, honey, right? Because you think about every successful person I know that I admire,
Mm.
all of their careers took off later in life, which meant this. Because me, at the levels I'm at right now, had this happened in my early 20s, I would not be alive.
Mm.
I wouldn't have been prepared. I wouldn't have been emotionally strong enough to endure the level of stress and uncertainty that I'm dealing with right now as a full-time creative.
Mm. That's good insight, because I feel like, especially, I've been hearing a lot about Gen Z and the generations that are younger and how much pressure they put on themselves to have it figured out, almost like starting before the end of high school.
Yeah.
And it's like that's so unrealistic because your emotional maturity isn't on the level that it needs to be.
And your brain might be fully developed.
Yeah, yeah, like,
It's
you
like,
can't balance and sustain,
yeah,
the dreams that you have because you don't even have the life experience.
yeah. And you know what's so weird about that? And I didn't realize this until I started coaching a few years ago professionally. Not trying to plug my coaching program, but I guess it is
I
what you
mean,
do on
hey, it's
podcast
what
to
you
do,
do.
right? Um, I always had a deep knowing that I
Mm,
was a storyteller, that I was
mhm,
a writer
mhm,
from the moment I was in grammar school. I mean, I just always knew. I always knew I was going to be a storyteller. If you look at my middle school yearbook and you look at my high school yearbook,
mm,
similar goals and dreams: to become a writer, to become a published author, to graduate high school and go to college, to graduate college, right?
mhm,
I have accomplished every goal that little me had.
mm,
So that if all this disappears, if my last breath happens tonight, I can transition knowing that I did what I sought to do.
mhm,
And of course, as you age and you grow, you have higher aspirations. Of course, I want my own daytime talk show one day. I want to become the first queer Latino to open up daytime talk show by saying, "Good morning, beautiful people. Let's
mm,
talk." Right? Of course, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author. Of course, I want Oprah to interview me when my memoir comes out. Crippled but not broke.
mm,
Right? Of course, I have other aspirations. Of course, I want to give a TED talk and not just a TEDx talk.
mhm,
Right? But if I never even reach those goals, I can know
yeah,
that in my daily life, I honor the calling of my life and I've honored the why I was here. And so that to me is the only metric of success I needed to hit before I die.
mm,
Everything else is cherry on top,
mhm,
right? Because my goals were simple: graduate college, be a published writer, be able to make a living off my art.
mm.
I'm doing that, right?
And the timeline unfolded so organically because you had the
Yes.
patience to not compare your timeline to someone else's
Oh,
until
and,
you're
and, and don't get me wrong.
on your
I
own.
do that really well in my professional life where I don't compare and I think there's plenty of space for all of us. But in my personal life, I'm like, okay, when my students from higher ed started getting married before me, I was like, Jesus take the wheel, because there is just something about the divine timing of my love life that does not align with the universe's. And for all that is good in this world, I don't understand why, but it's okay, right?
It's
I'm in
another
therapy.
timeline.
I'll process. That's a whole other conversation. But this idea, this notion, this idea that, and a lot of this knowing and a lot of this drive came from the passing of my brother's death. It came from his murder. And I remember thinking to myself as a young 14-year-old queer boy who had just experienced the first major loss in his life, saying, I don't want to die with the untold stories within me. And COVID reinforced that desire not to die with untold stories within me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I started doing the podcast that I launched initially, Marking the Path, right? That's when I started to get back to that drive. And here I am today, right? 5 years after the onset of the COVID pandemic, I am living the life I prayed for at the time of uncertainty, at the time when I didn't know where the world was going.
Mm-hmm.
I envisioned where I wanted to go, and I'm living that life now.
Mm.
And there is nothing that separates me from the Gen Zers or Gen Alpha or anyone in my generation or older than me, right? We all have the innate ability to honor the calling of our lives. We just have to be willing
Mm-hmm.
to actually pick up the phone when we're called to do it and then do the work
Absolutely.
to hone our craft, right? To not rely on talent. You know how many people in my high school class were much more talented than me as writers and dancers and choreographers? A shitload. You
But
know
did
how
they
many of them?
persist?
I was
Question.
gonna say, you know how many of those people who were more talented, who talk shit about me, are still in the field doing the work or succeeded at the same level as me? A handful.
So much of it is about endurance and just like outlasting your own thoughts that like you are gonna, quit, or you're going to like fail, or you're not going to measure up.
Yeah.
Just outlast those thoughts, sit with them, let them
Yeah.
pass, and continue to do the
But
work.
also, I mean, you are gonna fail. We all have failures, whether you're a
Absolutely.
creative or not, right? Whether we're full-time creatives or not, we all experience failure. To be human is to fail. I say, what is the
And
one thing?
rejection, that's
And
a big part.
rejection. Oh my
And
God.
yeah,
You
as a
think that book
freelancer,
that got
it's a big
published by a major publishing house in 2017 as a hybrid? Absolutely. Now it's a little bit different of a market. I think now hybrids are more acceptable. But back when this book was coming out,
yeah.
never. Never.
And I can tell you, as a freelancer, like people might see that I've written for like certain outlets and that I might have like 2 or 3 articles. What they don't see is that that outlet probably rejected 3 or 4 times as many pitches and ideas that I had that they turned down, either because of the timing, or they felt like it wasn't a good fit,
Yeah.
or they just didn't like the writing.
Yeah.
We don't need this.
Yeah.
So, there's so much rejection on the back end of
Yes.
really like stepping into your dreams. And I just wish younger people knew that and
Listen,
trusted.
for
Oh,
every success, for every major success I've had in my life, I've
yeah.
had 10,000 failures.
Mm-hmm.
But it was in those failing moments, right? I notice how I call them moments,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we have this misconception that our failures stay with us forever,
Mm.
but time moves on.
Time moves
And
on.
the only one ruminating and harboring those pain and that regret of those failures is you.
Mm.
And so if you want to honor the calling of your life, if you want to dare greatly, right? You have to endure the failures
Yes.
and see them as fleeting moments.
Fleeting moments.
And some failures have longer repercussions, right? Bigger repercussions. Some of them
Sure.
leave actual scars in us,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's still moments that happen in the past. And while it will shape and change the trajectory of your life, it does not need to define your story,
Absolutely not.
right? The falling down every single few steps could have easily defined my life.
Mm-hmm.
But what I chose to do instead was focus on the getting back up part.
Just one more time.
One more
Each time,
time,
if you can just tell yourself one more time.
one more time.
Yeah. And it,
Right?
it
And that
usually,
can be applied to so much in life. When you get rejected from lovers, potential lovers, when you're feeling suicidal ideation and you feel like you just need to get out of this life, right?
mm-hmm.
Whether it's, personal or professional, just one more try, one more try, one more time, right? How many people do we know now that we all admire deeply
Mm-hmm.
were just one more rejection away from giving up, or
Yeah.
one more non-breakthrough moment from giving up,
Mm-hmm.
right? You have to honor the calling and the timing of your.
Mm-hmm.
Now, people like me who are type A and controlling, That's the part I really struggle with. It's like, okay, I'm going to honor the calling. I know why you created me. I know why I'm here, but I want to do it on my time.
Yeah.
Right? Because if it was my timing, by now at 34, I'd be married, right? We'd be a power couple on all the pages of magazines. I'd be a New York Times bestselling author. I would have met. I mean, I already met Oprah, so actually, I guess I did check it off my timeline. But like, that's beside the point. I would have been at Oprah's book club already. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many things and what I've learned, especially in the last year, and this past year, is that what I thought I was ready for and what I thought I wanted in that moment
Mm,
was not what I needed.
mm,
And when you're able to put aside ego,
mm-hmm,
right? When I think about growing up in the church and how I was told to be obedient to God, and then they use prayer, try to pray the gay away,
mm,
right? I spent my 20s running from my faith, but God kept following. My faith kept
mm,
lingering,
mm,
right? Until I was ready to re-engage with it in public,
mm,
unashamed of my queerness, unashamed of being spiritual, unashamed of having a relationship with the universe and God and my higher power. Because to be queer, to be brown, to be crippled, to be femme, to be poor,
mm,
and to be a person of faith is not a contradiction.
mm-hmm,
And I will not let the world fragment me. I am not an incomplete sentence.
mm,
And that is what I hope to shift in society through my work. I hope that in me being a blueprint, in me being a possibility model, in me daring to own my narrative and own my story and share that story, that it has a ripple effect.
mm,
Right?
mm-hmm,
Because the vision of the professional storyteller is a world where every person embraces their story.
mm-hmm, mm. What you just said about identities, I'm saying because it reminded me of that quote. I think James Baldwin was in an interview, and the guy's like, "So you're poor, you're black, you're gay, like, what does all that mean for you as a writer?" And James Baldwin just kind of laughs and is like, "Oh, I thought I hit the jackpot. Like, you can't go much further than that. So the only option is to use it."
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think
I,
using
I wish
is so
I
powerful.
wish I was as enlightened as James Baldwin when he said that. Because I remember watching that clip and I was like, "Oh, honey, I don't feel like this is a jackpot. I feel like this is just a good source material, but it's not the jackpot, right?" And and right. I think the reason why some of the most prolific, successful storytellers of our generation, the reason why their work resonates is because they've been through some shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think of writers like Virginia Woolf, right? Like there
Hmm.
has to be a level of torment and closure
Mm,
that comes with
mhm.
being a creative of any kind.
Tension.
Tension,
Mhm,
right? It is the creative madness that Dr. Lamar Bruce talks about, right?
mhm,
That this to be a creative is to be mad, right?
and to not pathologize that, I think
And
so
not
much of it,
apologize it.
the
Well,
power of
you can
storytelling.
speak more about that more concretely than I can because you are the trained therapist in the room. But this idea around it, not pathologizing it, but also recognizing that
Mm,
Demi Lovato, Amy Winehouse, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, a lot of the most creative people that we cared about, right? Well, Demi Lovato survived, thankfully, but everyone else I just mentioned passed away or transitioned. They had a madness to
mhm,
them,
mhm,
and the world stripped them of their humanness
mhm,
and just objectified them in such a way that when the madness consumed them, the only way out was out.
mhm,
It wasn't through.
and that's so sad. It's so sad because in hindsight, people humanize them, and it's like, well, why couldn't you have
Why
humanized
the
them
fuck couldn't you do that when they were alive, when they needed you to do that?
when they needed
Instead,
you?
they were the butt of all your jokes. Instead, you were body shaming them. Instead, you were doing XYZ. Instead, you took their suffering and made it headline for your own damn profit.
Tabloids, yeah. It's sick. It's sick.
It's
That's why I would never wanna be, famous. I always say that. I
listen,
would just I am fine being respected for what I like to do, and
yeah,
that's enough for me.
yeah,
But when it gets to the point where I become this like object versus this person,
yeah. Well, I always tell people now. Now I have people because Kelly Clarkson is a great example of this. I always say now I want to be Kelly Clarkson famous because unless that girl is opening her mouth to laugh or sing, no one really recognizes her when she's walking around New York City.
That's
Put on
true.
a baseball cap, no makeup, some sunglasses, and some joggers, and she'd be unrecognizable.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because she's 5 foot, what? She's probably like 4'11", 4'12", right? She's just an all-American girl. And, and I will say that might be a little harder for me to do because of the way I dress, but like, I aspire to be that kind of successful, whereas like, homegirl she stays book busy and blessed and has way too many jobs to ever worry about her next meal,
Yeah,
right?
and she's more focused on her authenticity, it
Yeah,
seems.
and you know what? You know how hard it is not to lose yourself, especially when you become the blueprint for reality TV stardom.
And in addition to that, you have the money to change so many things about yourself, but you're
And
still
she chose
managing
not to.
to be your authentic self. I think that's so
Yo,
powerful.
she is so grounded. And here's what I always tell people in my life, especially those who are close to me. I said, if I ever forget where I come from, who I was, or who I am, slap the fuck out of me. You have my permission to yoke me up and slap me back to reality.
Because
Because
it's
the moment,
losing yourself is costly. That's the thing.
yes, because
Very,
the
very,
moment I forget who I am,
it's very
the
costly.
moment I forget the little version of me that could make this book possible, the moment I forget my why and I
Yeah.
lose sight of it, I'm no
Dang.
longer honoring the calling of my life.
Yeah.
And that is not something I want to do.
Mm-mm.
That's not something I will allow myself to do,
That's
right?
misalignment.
That's misalignment.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that leads to?
Mm.
Suffering.
Mm.
And I know it because every time I try to force something to be in alignment with me, whether it was a boyfriend, a friendship, a relative, a career opportunity, it was misaligned and I suffered for it greatly.
Mm.
And no matter how stressed out I am right now as being a creative entrepreneur and how much Pisces moon makes me moody and my mood swings, I have never felt more stressed, more blessed, and more fulfilled than I am in this season of my life.
Mm.
Even on my sick days, I still wake up, push it through to get work done.
That's a green flag.
Because I love my work. I love my life.
Mm.
I don't always like myself, but I love what I do. I love what I was called to do.
Mm.
And I love myself. I may not always like myself because there's a difference between loving yourself and liking yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that I've gained 30 pounds, but I love that my body is not as crippled as it used to be.
Mm.
Okay? There's nuance.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not down with that toxic positivity bullshit that people try to do.
I hear
No.
that. I hear
No.
that.
And that's why, also, and to your point around not wanting to become so famous or that you lose your humanness, I always tell people now, because there are people now who they meet me or they run into me somewhere, and it doesn't happen so much, obviously, because I'm not that big of a deal. It probably happens more to you because of your number of followers. But like, they get like all like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I get to meet you. Oh my god." And I'm just like, "You good?" Like, I'm just like you.
It's,
I
it's
take
a
a shit.
thing.
I shower. I mean, most people probably don't shower as much as I do, but you should shower every day. For those who don't shower every day, you should. And so it's like I'm human.
Yeah.
And what I had to realize was, and sometimes the change of people's, sometimes it's not the famous person who changes or the successful person who changes, it's the people around them who changes
Mm.
that try to make it so like they changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, I'm still Marky from the block. I'm still from the hood.
Life
I
keeps lifing.
Okay, life keeps lifing.
Keeps lifing.
Okay, all I pray for is for more money in the account, so I never have to worry about where my next meal is coming from.
Yeah, life keeps lifing, and
And a husband, a lover. I'm gonna manifest that. Lord, bring me a man, a good one, a good man.
I love how you answered that question because it just reiterates that part of your purpose for your work and your intentionality behind your work is to help people realize that their authenticity is enough.
Yeah,
And that is
because
the
who they are
who they are is
is
enough.
enough.
And that's the guidance that they should keep revisiting and returning to throughout their life, is that source of authenticity. And
Yeah,
it's very tempting to, deviate from that and follow someone else's,
of course it
roadmap
is.
or story. It's
Do you
very
think do you think I would choose to be femme if it wasn't what made me feel so comfortable? Do you know how much easier my love life would be if I wasn't femme?
mm,
Right? But I'm not willing to sacrifice my authenticity for a lover.
hmm It's personal authenticity, it's artistic integrity,
it's liberation. I literally have a tattoo that, or freedom. I literally have a tattoo that says authenticity equals freedom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am
Freedom
free.
from wearing masks, freedom from having to perform,
Freedom.
freedom to be yourself.
Freedom to be ourselves. And freedom to love ourselves for the fullness of who we are, for the nuance, for the imperfectness, for the messiness.
Self-acceptance.
Listen, I am a hero in one person's story, a villain in someone else's story, and a regret in someone else's. And that's totally okay. You know why? Because I'm a whole fucking human.
A human, yeah.
I'm only human.
Yeah, you're layered, you're multidimensional.
Yeah.
You know, you're evolving, you're dynamic, you're never
Our
going
ways
to
to expanding, all the things. Forever changing. Forever changing.
Everything is always changing about us.
Yeah.
Nothing is static. Nothing. So
Except this. You know what's static?
what?
Our innate worthiness.
That's a word.
We were born worthy.
That's a word. We were born worthy. We were born enough.
We were conditioned to think that we aren't.
Mm-hmm.
For a variety of reasons. For control, because of abuse, because of trauma, because of all the other things. But innately you are worthy, right? Because my faith tells me that I am a reflection of my higher power, that I am loved. That he loved us so much that he created us in his image. So that to me already lets me know I'm innately worthy. Will I always feel that way? Absolutely not. I'm human.
Yeah.
Right?
There's highs and lows.
There's highs and lows. And not just because you have Pisces in your moon chart. Okay? Just to clarify.
But you have an anchor. That's the thing. You have an anchor to...
Anchor tattoo, an anchor tattoo. You keep bringing all these imagery into my body. Yes, my tattoo.
I did not know this, by the way. Like, people, I did not know this for like viewers.
No. Yeah. No, I don't actually think the time that we have spoken that I've had my arm so out where you can see all my tattoos. I used to feel like I have like
either, no.
Yeah, so you don't realize how I'm pretty tatted, folks, for those watch the YouTube video. But all right, y'all. This episode, because me and Araya can talk forever, it seems like, because we know this to be true. We're gonna have to split this episode to 2 parts, Araya. Okay, because it's 1 hour and 11 and a half minutes, and we're still not done wrapping it up. But I can talk to you forever, and I sense the feeling is mutual, and I just want to say, I want to give you closing remarks or the space to close us out, and then I'll just remind people to share, follow, and all that good jazz. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to thank you for like being open to this idea. I think it's just been super refreshing for me. Just like I've been in the process or stage of just like trying to tap into discernment, like which direction do I go? Do I take on this project or not? And I think a commonality between both of us is that we use storytelling to get back to who we were before we were conditioned with all of this sort of like inadequacy or whatever. And so, yeah, listening to who I am outside of society's demands, expectations, that is what it's really all about. And I feel like if I'm not tapping into that, then it's probably not a story that genuinely resonates with who I am and isn't worth my time. I need to focus on the things that really like, you know, make me feel alive and that honor that, you know, inner child who needs liberation. So thank you for just like tying it all together with like your, you know, childhood, your past, you know, your coming of age story, and, you know, wrapping that up with where you are now. It's a beautiful trajectory to witness and to hear about. So thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to be a special host for this special 2-part conversation. I almost forgot what time, because I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I was like, oh, I'm getting really hungry, what time is it? And I'm like, oh my god, we're like been talking over an hour, so I love that for us. All right, y'all, you know I'm not editing that part out, I'm keeping all this in, you're just gonna get in 2 parts. And we'll add some little outro for the first part. But be sure to connect and follow Araya Baker. You can follow them on social media, handle Araya Baker. can also go to their website, arayabaker.com. If you are not familiar with their work, please do yourself a favor and read their shit. It's bomb. And if you're looking to have a guest on your podcast, or you want someone to interview on your podcast, and you want a speaker or some kind of brilliant intellect to speak on your college campus or organization or company, be sure to book Araya, because they are just brilliant, and the world needs to hear more of your story.
Thank you.
Be sure to like, share, and rate this podcast. Share it with your family, your friends, your ex-boyfriend, people in your life who you care about, your faith community, so they can see how queerness and faith can interconnected and coexist in its fullness. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and be well.